Okay, a few weeks ago, Kendall interrupted me while I was on a Zoom therapy session. I'm trying to train you that when I'm on a Zoom call, that you're going to get filmed. This'll work. And after she left the room, I told my therapist, she does this to me a lot. I'll tell her that I'm going to be in a meeting for an hour, and 25 minutes into the meeting, she comes into the office. She asks me something very inconsequential that doesn't really matter, like, when are we having dinner? Or do you know where this is? Something that could have waited. And it kind of frustrates me. It drives me crazy. And my therapist told me, oh, well, that's a classic thing that people do. It's called borrowing functioning. And I'm like, what? I'd never heard of it. Had you ever heard of it? And it's when you feel a moment of anxiety or boredom or some uncomfortable feeling. And instead of being able to just ground yourself down and give yourself the soothing or the support that you need, you borrow that functioning that you don't have for yourself by going to somebody else. So by interrupting me in a moment where maybe she felt a little insecure, a little bored, a little distracted, maybe you wanted to procrastinate, instead of giving herself what she needed to get back on track, she finds somebody else to give her what she needs. She's seeking a little reassurance. She's seeking to be told everything's okay. Is that right?
Yeah, some of the times.
So what have you noticed since, because I wanted to make this video because Kendall just said to me, you know, ever since that conversation we had about borrowing functioning, I noticed something. So what did you notice?
I was just saying that ever since she told me that it like pissed her off that I would interrupt her, I've just stopped coming. I've stopped coming up to her office during the days. At least when I know she's busy. Like today, I even opened the door and I heard her in her recording voice talking, and so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna shut the door. Whereas normally I would just like come up and try to like do some signal to her or something stupid, but I don't really understand where the psychology comes in. I've just regulated it and kind of shut it down. I don't bother you as much anymore.
Well, is it that you don't bother me, or is it that you've noticed that you didn't actually need me in that moment?
Yeah, a bit of both. I mean, a lot of the times I'm just bored and I want company. And I'm like, what's up? It's not even about being anxious necessarily.
Well, that is kind of an uncomfortable feeling, to be bored and to be alone. And not knowing how to deal with boredom or being alone is why we seek a distraction. And for some people, the distraction is going and finding somebody else, which is totally fine. For other people, it might be drinking or vaping or, you know, having some weed because you want to soothe that uncomfortable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I don't want you to interrupt me. Absolutely. I want you to come up here. It makes me sad to think you wouldn't come up to the office because you think that I'm too busy for you. That's not the point at all. The point is, in those moments where I take the time to say, hey, I'm going to be on a phone call for an hour, or I'm doing a speech live for a client, knowing that in those moments, there's still the desire to check in, the desire to interrupt, the desire to...
Yeah, well, also I come to you because you don't get mad. You're like, hey, what's up? Whereas, like, when I go interrupt Dad, he's like, yes.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because when it happened in therapy, during that therapy call, my therapist said, well, you realize you just invited her. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, when she opened the door and said, you're busy, you said, come on in. And you're very welcoming. And I said, well, of course I was.
Well, do you want me to come in and say, are you busy? Or do you not want me to come in?
I think if I've told you that I need the hour, unless there's an emergency, well, I'd rather you not come in.
You don't always tell me, like, hey, from 9 to 5 today, I'm going to be on and off Zoom calls. Don't come in. Like, whenever you have a speech or you have some big meeting, you text in our family group chat and you're like, don't come up. And I don't. Yep. But, like, throughout the day...
No, I love for you to poke your head in. And if I kind of hold up the hand, it means don't. I'm in the middle of something.
Got it.
And I also, when she said to me, what if you would have turned to Kendall when she opened the door and said, I told you I was going to be in a meeting for an hour. I was like, I couldn't say that to her. And she said, why?
Well, I would be like, geez.
Right?
I'd be like, whoa, okay.
I know. And she said, well, that's part of the problem, is that you're not establishing healthy boundaries between you two. You have allowed yourself to become the coping mechanism that she uses when there's a feeling that she's not comfortable with. And by saying, I told you I needed an hour, I'll be out in 20 minutes, it also reminds you that you can rely on yourself to get yourself through those moments of boredom. What do you think?
Makes sense.
I don't know if I could say that to you, though, because I feel like it's a rejection.
It's not. You're fine.
Okay, I'll try it. Well, I love you.
I love you too.
Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe, because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you, so make sure you subscribe. Mwah.